Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Joppy Noodle Legs here today, and we've got another movie in the Gates of Hell week. So last video we looked at City of the Living Dead. So the next one we're looking at is The Beyond. Like I said, this is a trilogy of films, the Gate of Hell trilogy, but they're not really sort of based on one another, but they're just things that interlink with the films. This one starts off, I think it's in Louisiana, back in like a long time ago, and it's like you see these guys on a boat, sort of with fire torches, heading towards this house, which is like a hotel or like a boarding house. And they're heading their way there because there's a guy there who's been doing these sort of paintings of like the gates of hell, if you like, pictures of like zombies rising from the ground, and there's like a woman that lives there, and she starts talking about the book of Enoch. So they obviously believe these are witches or demons or whatever. So they arrive. You see him sort of painting these sort of paintings, and you get some quite good photography work of like close-ups, typical Lucio photography with eyes. He just loves close-ups on eyes. Anyway, the boat sort of arrive onto by the house, and two cars pull up. So it's all the sort of local folk. They've all come to this place, and they sort of barge their way through to the hotel past the receptionist, looking for this guy who's doing the paintings. And so that they head their way upstairs, and he's in room 36, and they head their way towards his room, and they then burst in to the room, and he's like a bit shocked and he doesn't know what's going on. And one of them goes over to him and sort of strikes him down with a metal chain across his face. And so they then sort of drag him down towards the basement. So they grab him and drag him down to the basement. And there, when they get him down to the basement, they again strike him a few more times with these metal chains, sort of like cutting him open. And then they sort of get some big sort of like nails and sort of crucify him to the wall down in the actual basement. And they're sort of saying, you know, go get back to hell, you demon, all this sort of stuff they're saying. And then they start pouring this hot stuff all over his face. It looks like sort of like hot. It's not tar. It's just like some hot sort of fluid. It almost looks like tar, but it's white. And then they sort of pour it all over his face, and then his face starts to melt off. And you just sort of like get this sort of cool music playing over this sort of face melting sort of scene in the film. And then there's like a sign on the wall, symbol on the wall, and you hear the woman talking, saying about the 7 gates of hell. If you unlock one of these gateways, then you know you're unleashing hell on earth, sort of thing. And this is kind of like what they're doing, I think. I think they're trying to stop it from happening. So anyway, we then cut to 1981 at the same place. So we cut to this woman who's bought she's bought the hotel. So, and she's there, sort of like doing it all up. You see her walking around on the outside with this chap, and I believe I believe it's Mary from City of the Living Dead. I'm sure it's the same actress. Anyway, she's walking around, and you see the 2 workmen painting the windowsills and stuff on this scaffolding, and one of them looks in the window, and he sees this sort of like burnt figurine with these like white eyes staring at him, and he sort of falls backwards and lands down onto the ground, sort of like really badly injured. So they take him into the house, and he's sort of like laying down with all blood coming out of his mouth, and he's saying, "Oh, the eyes," and all this kind of thing, and they've called for the doctor, and the doctor turns up sort of like all sort of suave and really slow, not in a hurry or anything. He's just sort of like taking his time, walking up to the house. So the doctor turns up, and then being such a brilliant doctor, says he needs the hospital. Well done, mate. It didn't need really the doctor to say that. Um, and he starts asking the woman for water. He says, "Oh, we haven't got water yet. We're waiting for the plumber." And so they said, "Well, we need to get him to the hospital straight away." So him and the other worker sort of carry him out to the car, and they take him off to the hospital. Um, and one of the other guys that's there with the woman that's just bought the house see the old paintings in the room, like the guy was painting like one of a zombie of the ground, and then there's like a sort of like an old sort of calling system like these old hotels used to have, like when someone buzzed from a room, and it buzzed on there saying number 36, so it's quite eerie. And then we cut to Joe. Joe the plumber. Joe the plumber turns up. He turns up in his van, and he's come there to sort out the water, because apparently the whole basement's flooded and everything, and there's no water. So he's come and he lets himself in, and he sort of shouts, "Anyone there?" And she comes down and finds him, says, "Yeah, are you Joe?" He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, we've got like a flooded basement and we've got no water." So he goes, "Well, you just show me where it is." So she takes him down to the basement. It's quite dark down there. And then we hear these footsteps in the basement, and it's another woman. I'm not quite sure where she just appeared from, but she says, "Oh, I've made a clear path for Joe to go and have a look." She's probably another local that's sort of helping out get the hotel straight. So they leave Joe to it, and Joe sort of starts going to try and sort out where the leak is, and they both go back upstairs. And then Joe sort of like sees water coming out of a wall area, and he sort of like hits it with like a sort of hammer, and it easily breaks away, and then water starts pouring out, like it sort of like turns into sludge, the bricks, and comes down, and then a hand comes out and grabs Joe's face and squeezes his eyeballs out, and you just see him squeeze out, absolutely really gory, horrendous. So he gets attacked and killed. So we then cut upstairs, to a really bizarre bit of the film. I thought it was a dream sequence, first of all. The woman that's bought the house is driving along this sort of pier at a seaside sort of thing, and there's a girl with a dog standing there, and it's a blind girl with white eyes. Anyway, she approaches this girl and talks to her and finds out her name's Emily. And Emily's there, sort of like, is there talking to her and sort of showing her around, telling her to leave the hotel. Don't live here. It's a dangerous sort of like cursed place. So we've got all this going on, and then one of the women are down in the basement looking for Joe to see where he is in the hotel, and she's searching around, and she finds his body, and it's all blood down his face, and again he's sort of spitting out his insides from his mouth, a bit like the first film. And then she looks over and she sees this tank, and then this body rises in the tank, and this is the body of the guy from all those years ago that they had crucified up on the wall. So they found his body. So then all these bodies get taken to the morgue. So what's going on? So that they take all these bodies to the morgue, and so far we've got a dead plumber, we've got a badly injured scaffolding guy, we've got the body of the guy that's already been dead there, and we've got this blind woman showing the woman around, and it's just like, it's really quite confusing at the beginning. It does fall into place as the film goes along. And at the hospital, the doctor's in the sort of like, in kind of like, done the sort of biopsy sort of room, and he's done sort of like things, and he's sewn up the chest of the of Joe, the plumber, but they haven't found anything. And one of the other guys wires up electrical sort of pulse reading to the really old body to see if there's any life in it. Then the doctor sort of scoots off, our doctor, and sort of goes out and meets up with our hotel owner, because he bumps into her in a car, boops his horn. And back at the hospital, while this is going on, Joe's wife and daughter arrive, and she goes into the sort of like morgue place where all the bodies are on the table, and she starts then to put clothes on Joe because she wants him dressed, and she gives him these beads. So she dresses him up and these beads while the daughter's sitting outside, and the daughter sees this really strange sort of guy, Porter, walking with like one of these sort of dead body things past him, and it's kind of really strange things happening. And inside the morgue we hear the wife screaming, and so the girl runs into the room, and the mother's laying on the floor, and there's like a sulfuric acid loose in this jar. It's tipped over and it's all pouring down on her face, and her face is melting and sort of exploding with blood and stuff like this. So all this stuff's happening, and then the girl's and all the acid is leaking all over the floor, and the girl's trying to get away from the acid. Meanwhile, the old dead corpse heartbeat is going on the monitor. So the dead are rising. So a bit like the first one. Anyway, this young girl's trying to find a way out. She's opening all the fridges. She manages to open one fridge, and there's 2 live zombies inside. And then she sort of screams, and then it cuts to the woman out with the doctor having a dinner, as you do. But that's all I'm going to tell you, because there's so many weird things going on in this film. So basically, this woman has bought this hotel. This hotel is obviously one of the gateways to hell, because of the people that were living there, the guy and the witch woman, and they recently, because they were killed there, they thought the curse had died with the place. But then obviously Joe's gone there, bashed through the wall, he's found this secret area, and he's now re-released. He's opened the gateway again, and so all this weird stuff's happening, and all this sort of amazing gore's happening. We've got people being killed by tarantulas. Of course I'm not going to show you that, because I love my tarantulas, and tarantulas can't kill you anyway. But it's quite a gruesome scene. They're all sort of like eating this guy's face and mouth and stuff. It's really gruesome, and there's loads of really gruesome deaths in it. So what do I think of The Beyond? It's bizarre. It's really strange, but really awesome. I mean, the City of the Living Dead is a lot easier to sort of follow than this, because this does sort of like, when you've seen it 2 or 3 times, it falls into place, and it is a part. This whole trilogy is a masterpiece, and you need all 3 of them to complete the masterpiece. And this is like the bizarre episode of it. It's really, really strange. The story is a little bit everywhere, but it does fall into place, and I think the story being that sort of jagged actually helps the film become more terrifying, because you don't really know what's going on. The pluses of this, the transfer again is amazing. It's got some great natural grain in it, which I love. The cast is good. No Christopher George this time, but the cast is good. It's still got the same sort of premise as the first one. Obviously, Christopher George, the reporter, and the woman. This one, you've got the doctor and the woman, and they're trying to solve what's going on and try and get this gateway shut. So it's the same sort of premise, but it's still really cool. The gore is phenomenal. It's definitely some of Lucio best work since Zombie Flesh Eaters. It's some of his best work in it. Absolutely fantastic. Really gory, Really confusing, but really awesome. Negatives, the confusing can put a few people off, because it can be a bit, well, what's going on? But stick with it. Watch it again. Maybe watch it with a commentary or something like that, because that will sometimes help. Or watch some of the sort of interviews on there, and that can sometimes help make, oh, that's what that was about. Sometimes stuff like that helps if you come out of a film a bit confused, but you've enjoyed it. If I've come out of a film and I'm confused, I'll go in it again and watch it again. This is about my 4th time of watching it, and I'm still confused, but I've got a pretty good idea what's going on. So it's really, really cool. I'm going to score this film an excellent watch and give it an 8 out of 10. It's nowhere near. I gave The City of Living Dead 9 out of 10. That's definitely my favourite of the trilogy. This is really, really cool and a really, really good fun film to watch. If you just want to sit down with popcorn and a drink and watch a real gore fest, this is your sort of film you want to watch. Really, really cool. The Beyond, 8 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you thought of it. It is confusing, but it's still a great film. I really enjoyed it. It's great to revisit these. I absolutely love this trilogy. It's a masterpiece, all three together. So that means we've only got one more to go. So we're going to watch that in the next video, which is going to be The House by the Cemetery. Until then, watch some other horror channels, guys. Watch Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzlewell, I Am the Ice Lord, Sarah of Horror, Cat Watches Horror Films, Grumpy Andy's Horror Haunted House. Fantastic channels, guys. Till then, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.